What if Mace Windu trusted Anakin and arrested Palpatine? Let's explore the depths of it in the video.
I can't hold on any longer.
I am going to end this, once and for all.
You can't. He must stand trial.
He has control of the Senate and the courts. He's too dangerous to be left alive.
I'm too weak. Don't kill me, please.
It's not the Jedi way. He must live.
Palpatine closes his eyes and gasps as Mace raises his lightsaber. But then, after a moment, the final blow does not come. When he opens his eyes, he finds Mace glaring down at him, before grabbing the Chancellor by his collar and shoving him to the ground. Very well. He lives. But know this. Whatever happens is on your head. Palpatine blinks, looking over at Mace, who roughly leads him away. Things do not go how Palpatine had planned. No sooner do they have Palpatine detained, does the Senate try to figure out what happened. Here, Mace tries to do damage control, and says they have evidence that Palpatine is a Sith Lord. While this may pacify a few senators, Palpatine still has allies in the Senate who jump at this opportunity. Many are quick to point out that Sith Lord or not, Palpatine is still a member of the galactic government, and to try and detain him is tantamount to staging a coup. They try to push this narrative that the Jedi are using their beliefs to justify their actions. Instead, Mace suggests that Anakin testify as well. He is one of the Chancellor's most trusted confidants, and if it confirms what he says, then it should prove beyond a shadow of a doubt what Palpatine is. For a moment, this might actually sway the crowd, but Mace Windu shakes his head.
How convenient that fact is for you. And it just so happens that you tried to turn Anakin Skywalker into a spy for the Jedi Council. Do you deny that?
I do not. Anakin was indeed sent to keep an eye on the Chancellor, to ensure he gave back power to the Senate. Nothing more.
Still, you must understand how problematic it is to allow his testimony given the nature of his assignment.
I do not, and neither should this Senate. If his mission was to gather information, then hearing the information he gathered is paramount to this situation.
A deadlock forms as neither side can agree on what should come of Anakin's testimony, and that is precisely what Palpatine wants. As Anakin returns to the temple, he gets a vision from Palpatine. The old Chancellor is still in his cell, but he reminds Anakin that he still possesses the power he wants. More importantly, he comes up with a warning that the Jedi will kick him out if they try to learn he's fathered children and married Padme in secret. His children will then be taken from him, and he will never see them again. Although Anakin is worried about betraying the Republic, Palpatine assures him he must not do anything of the sort. Mace Windu has already done most of the work for him. Anakin must simply agree with his words and refuse to testify. Although the doubt claws at him, Anakin cannot bring himself to refuse, and the next day when he is called before the Senate, Anakin reaffirms their fear of mishandling the situation. He agrees and says that he has been compromised by exposure to both the Jedi and Palpatine's plots to give an impartial testimony. Mace is shocked by this, but presses hard. He does not hesitate to testify. However, Palpatine's allies try to regain the momentum. The evidence and footage from Palpatine's office conveniently disappear, alongside any correspondence between Anakin and Mace. While they agree Palpatine overstepped, they also rule that Mace's arrest is unconstitutional. The Senate decides to strip Palpatine's title of Chancellor, but in the same breath, begins to turn on the Jedi. While the public normally challenge these matters, their respect for the Jedi is also at an all-time low, and apathy is high. Palpatine is allowed to go free as a private citizen, and Mace is left fuming.
I hope you are pleased with yourself, Skywalker. Now more than ever, the Jedi must present a unified front. But you have made that impossible.
What was I supposed to do, Master? Had I testified, they would have twisted it anyway. The Chancellor's allies are stacked in the Senate.
I will acknowledge that we faced an uphill battle, but I was not about to roll over and accept my fate.
Yes. Instead, you just broke the law and made it more difficult for us to go after the Chancellor. Now, whatever we do, we look like we're staging a coup. How convenient for a man who claims to value the law and civility more than anything to break the law when it suits him.
Just as convenient as it is for one who disregards the law and protocol to throw it in someone's face. And just so you know, Skywalker, with the Chancellor's current position, the Jedi Council no longer requires your services.
Mace storms off, leaving Anakin fuming at the news. But he has little time to react, as instead he goes to visit the Chancellor. True to his word, he teaches Anakin everything he can about the dark side. As a private citizen, Palpatine chooses to retire from politics to his home, giving him more time to spend with Anakin. There, he talks about everything he's learned from his master. However, Anakin seems to only half listen to him. His heart is not in it. As though he doesn't admit it, he feels shame for what he did to Mace Windu and the Jedi Order. The fact that they didn't even kick Anakin out of the Order only adds to his guilt. He sees them passing through the halls, giving him hard looks and shaking their head in disappointment. All of that is worse than any rebuke they might have given. But he continues to tell himself he made the right choice, and he was following the law. In the meantime, the rest of the galaxy is still reeling from the power shift. Mace Windu becomes the new Chancellor and begins declawing the Jedi, with the Windu affair as it becomes known. He makes it a point to challenge the Jedi Order. The first thing he does is strip them of their military ranks and leaves command to the clones. Instead, the Jedi are reassigned back to their peacekeeping roles. Amidst the chaos, Mace Windu gives a speech.
It is clear, honorable senators, that the Jedi Order can no longer act independently of the Republic's will. Therefore, effective immediately, all military strategy meetings will require Senate oversight and will be taken over by the clone commanders. Furthermore, no Jedi may operate beyond Republic borders without direct approval from this chamber.
The Jedi have served as guardians of peace for over 1,000 years. You would remove us from this role.
Master Windu, you misunderstand. We are simply ensuring accountability. Surely the esteemed Jedi Council understands the value of transparency. The Jedi will continue their role. You shall focus there entirely.
The Jedi protest fiercely, and seeing them push back, the Senate also hits back. Others bring up the cost of supporting the Jedi Order for their missions, equipment, and the temple. They question why they are funding a religious order, especially as the war still rages on with numerous CIS outposts, regardless of Count Dooku and Grievous's death. A ripple of agreement runs through the Senate. A few senators cast sidelong glances at Mace and Yoda, at the assembled Jedi, but none rise to their defense. Unfortunately, the message is clear that the Jedi must not fight the Senate on this, and instead, they bow their heads and accept this command. The Jedi Council members rise, exiting in silence, but in the shadows of the chamber, Mace Windu and Tarkin exchange knowing glances. The once thriving Jedi Temple becomes a shadow of its former self. Many rooms are empty. The archives, once meticulously maintained by Jocasta Nu, now suffer from neglect, with most of the important data being transferred off-world. All of this as a result of the cut funding. It is clear, the Jedi are no longer welcome, nor safe on Coruscant. In the Council Chamber, the remaining Jedi Masters convene. Even though they are not spared the effects as their robes are patched and worn, their numbers are fewer too, as some had voluntarily gone into exile, like Yoda. Others like Shaak Ti and Plo Koon have simply accepted their fate and focused on serving the people as best they can with their limited resources. Only a handful like Mace, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and Luminara stubbornly cling to the temple and resist the growing tide. Across the galaxy, Jedi relocate to distant worlds. Some establish small enclaves on remote planets, training the next generation in secret. Others offer their skills as healers, mediators, or defenders in regions left lawless by the war. Aayla Secura organizes a refuge network in wild space. Plo Koon vanishes into the unknown regions, aiding displaced people in territories abandoned by the Republic. Quinlan Vos operates in the shadows, his methods even more unorthodox than before, but he helps deal with the growing threat of pirates and bandits. But not all Jedi bow to the new reality. Those who do are rewarded. If they do not resist, the Senate opts to send these groups additional funding. Enough for them to continue operations and maintain their organizations. It isn't much, but those Jedi who receive are desperate. With their purpose being stripped away from them, the chance to act and prove themselves to a galaxy that increasingly despises them is tempting, and many are willing to swallow their pride for it. Mace remains on Coruscant, protesting, challenging the Senate's decision, and demanding the restoration of the Jedi's rightful place. Each time, his words are met with polite dismissal or outright indifference. The tension begins to grow from both parties as it becomes clear that Mace is getting frustrated. This is when the attack begins to happen. They are small at first and easy to miss, but then they increase in frequency and size. Supply ships are raided with their things stolen. Senators who vote against the Jedi find themselves under attack, and groups who scorn the Jedi are raided. Most daring is the mining facility within Ryloth, where clones are harvesting minerals to send back to Coruscant. A sudden, unnatural darkness spreads through the corridors. Shadows twist and slither. The clones raise their weapons, but before they can react, lightning crackles through the body of one clone, sending him convulsing to the ground. More figures emerge, cloaked warriors moving with inhuman speed. One clone watches in horror as his blaster is ripped from his hands by an unseen force. Despite the darkness, they move with unnatural speed and coordination, as if they have a sixth sense. They do not speak, they do not hesitate. Those who escape report all of this, and the immediate thought is these attacks must be the Jedi, that they're doing this in retaliation for the Senate's harsh stance on them. In the shadows of Coruscant, Mas Amata and Sly Moore report to their true master. Sidious smiles.
The Jedi's destruction is already underway.
All according to plan, my lord. Sly Moore's Umbarans did their job well. With their advanced technology, it was easy for people to mistake their actions for acts of the Force from the Jedi. They made sure to attack places with Jedi outposts. This is enough for the Senate to act. They demand that action be taken and begin sending the clones out to retaliate and begin hunting down the Jedi. Battles break out across the Outer Rim as clone squads raid outposts, confiscating anything of value and arresting Jedi, even younglings and Padawans, upon the Chancellor's orders. Though some clones hesitate, Tarkin is adamant that it is necessary to maintain security. While the Jedi have put up with much, this seems too much for them. Many retaliated, defending their outposts and battling with the clones. Casualties begin to rise on both sides. At the front of this is Mace, who decides that if they cannot succeed with peaceful means, then the use of force is necessary. He leads the charge, fearlessly moving from outpost to outpost, cutting down any clones in his way and sending them back to Coruscant in disgrace. Such a bold display presents the Senate with a direct challenge. But though they have stripped the Jedi of their titles, they cannot do the same with their experience. Mace spent years on the battlefield, hardened by war, and that is now on full display. He begins gathering a resistance. The few Jedi who follow him are joined by volunteers, former planetary defense operatives, renegade clones, and even CIS outposts. They begin a rampage across the galaxy. With most of the clone forces still fighting the CIS, they do not have the forces to spare against Mace and his rebels. This allows them to raid and strike at the Republic virtually unchecked. The most daring is yet to come, as Mace sits atop his flagship, contemplating everything that's happened. He considers his options and what can be done. Unfortunately, things are in a difficult position. Though he's challenged the Chancellor's power, he has no way of truly dislodging his position. They lack evidence to truly challenge him, with Anakin still unwilling to testify. Obi-Wan recommends taking a break to strategize. Taking a deep breath, Mace decides to meditate, trying to consider his options. For a moment, he manages to clear his head and achieve some level of peace. But then that calm he feels begins to shift as darkness creeps in the edges of his vision. From the peace and calm, he finds himself in the dark and grim prison of the Coruscant jail. Inside, in the depths of the facility, a lone prisoner sits in a sealed containment cell, a former Sith Lord, discarded and forgotten. Maul. His mechanical legs rest against the cold floor, his eyes closed. He breathes slowly, his presence reaching outward into the Force.
Master Windu, I have sensed your little problem. It seems to me you lack someone willing to prove the Chancellor's wrongdoings. Allow me to offer my services.
You? And you expect me to help you?
No, I expect you to help yourself. You took a gamble trying to defeat the Chancellor like that. I must say, I'm impressed. Few Jedi would try such a thing, but you were still held back by Skywalker. Ironic, isn't it? The most reckless of the Jedi now urges caution. Still, it would be a shame if that sacrifice were to be in vain. And what do you have to offer in exchange? Palpatine had 3 apprentices. Anakin will not turn against him. Dooku is dead. And that leaves me. I made sure to keep records of our interactions. You may claim them after you've helped me escape.
As the vision fades, Mace opens his eyes and considers what he's just heard. Unsurprisingly, Obi-Wan is horrified at the idea of working with Maul, even if it's to expose Palpatine. After everything we've done to capture Maul, you risk throwing it all away with this plan of yours.
Maul is just the apprentice at the end of the day. If we trade him for the master, I would consider that a good deal.
That apprentice just took over an entire planet right under our noses and created a criminal empire.
And his master nearly took over the galaxy. I know you two have history, but with all due respect, Master Kenobi, now is not the time for that.
Obi-Wan presses his lips together but says nothing, as Mace orders their troops to set course to Coruscant. Soon enough, alarms blare across the Republic prison as their air defense system scramble too late. From the sky, Mace Windu and his rebels launch their attack. Clones scramble to their battle stations as explosions rock the exterior of the prison. Fighters open fire and rain down fire, carpeting the ground and clearing room for gunships to land. Mace leaps from the lead gunship, deflecting blaster fire as renegade clones and rebels follow from behind. He cuts through the security doors, deflecting blaster fire with impossible precision. Troopers drop one after another. As the doors open, he and a pair of Jedi Masters act as an impenetrable wall, shielding their fighters from behind, who throw grenades bursting through the walls, sending clones sprawling. Deep inside, Maul lifts his head as the tremors of battle reach him. His lips curl into a smile. The final doors leading to Maul's cell are blast-proof, reinforced durasteel, but Mace Windu raises both hands and crushes them with the Force.
Maul, I was beginning to think you wouldn't come.
Don't think we did this because we're concerned for you. We want that information. The next wave of Republic troopers storm in. The battle continues as Mace leads Maul through the chaos, cutting down any who dare block their escape. The Resistance forces retreat to their ships. As they lift off, Coruscant burns with sirens and cries of the wounded. The next morning, the Senate erupts into chaos. As Mace and the others did not even bother to hide their attack, many are now calling for their arrest and destruction. Some even say the Jedi must be destroyed entirely, as they have become a threat to democracy. Palpatine, his face shadowed beneath his hood, listens with a quiet smile.
My friend, you have seen what the Jedi have become. Yet, now more than ever you see what kind of chaos they will spread if left unchecked.
Chancellor, there has to be more to it than that. I refuse to believe that Obi-Wan would ever let Maul escape. He tries to argue, not liking where this conversation is going. But at the same time, the evidence is hard to refute, as Palpatine shows the footage of Mace Windu striking down Republic troops.
Your loyalty is admirable, but surely you can see how the public will not believe that. They do not know Obi-Wan as well as you do, and will call for blood. Only you can save them.
Me?
Yes. Unlike the rest of the Jedi, your name is not tarnished. You can save the Order's reputation if you truly wish. Though they have shunned you, you can take command now. If you recapture Maul, then perhaps you can convince the Senate to spare the other Jedi.
The Pike Syndicate's palace looms over the darkened streets of Obadiah, its spires wrapped in a haze of spice-laden smoke. They remain friendly with Maul, allowing him to store his information there. Mace Windu and Obi-Wan Kenobi move cautiously through the underground corridors, guided by Maul, until they reach a hidden doorway by the Pike stronghold. It is a long gallery, illuminated by strange neon light plants that coil around the pillars. This makes it easy to miss the hidden doorway in the corner.
Everything I know about Sidious, every secret dealing, every transaction, every hidden operation, it's all here.
Mace steps forward, glancing at Obi-Wan before placing his hand on the controls. But before the door can open, an explosion rocks the palace. Alarms blare, the corridors flash red with warning lights. Pike guards scramble to their weapons as the sound of blaster fire erupts above. Outside, Republic gunships descend from the stormy skies, and clone troopers rappel down. At their center, standing tall on the loading ramp, is Anakin Skywalker. Inside the palace, the Jedi react instantly. The doors burst open and clones come rushing in, turning the gallery into a battlefield as Pikes scramble for cover and return fire. Mace immediately activates his lightsaber and steps forward, blocking stray blaster bolts and shoving some clones back with the Force. But as he is about to cut their way through, Anakin steps forward. He emerges from the smoke, casually deflecting blaster fire as he spots Mace. The bald Jedi scoffs and readies his lightsaber.
All right. Maybe there is a bit of time.
No, I'll handle him. Help the Pikes. Pikes and Republic troopers exchange fire in the corridors. The scent of blaster plasma thicken the air. Clones push forward, trying to breach the stronghold while Mace and his rebels hold them off.
This ends now.
He rushes forward, lightsaber flashing at blinding speed. It forces Obi-Wan to leap back to avoid being slashed. But while he stumbles and rights himself, Anakin is already coming at him again, sweeping his lightsaber at him. This time, Obi-Wan catches it and forces him back. He shoves Anakin back and then aims an overhead cut that forces Anakin to block. While they are locked in combat, Obi-Wan speaks.
Anakin, listen to me. I know what it looks like, but there is more to this than you realize.
You rescued a criminal, someone who nearly killed Ahsoka, who took over Mandalore. The Jedi are on the verge of destruction because of that.
The Jedi were on the verge of destruction long before this, and you know that.
He senses turmoil within Anakin. The younger Jedi rushes forward and brings his lightsaber down, raining attacks on him. This time, Obi-Wan must break off and slide aside. With each strike, he can feel the unnatural strength within him. It isn't just from training and his power, it's from something else. Anger, doubt, fear. But as he begins to sense this, Anakin only grows more furious as he throws him back. He roars and unleashes another powerful blow. This one is enough to send him crashing against the wall. Anakin advances towards him, lightsaber ready. But then, Obi-Wan raises his hand.
Anakin, I know you're afraid.
I don't fear you.
No, it's someone else. Padme. I promise you, nothing will happen to her. Whatever Sidious has told you, whatever he's made you fear, it doesn't have to come true.
You don't understand.
Anakin, I don't. But I understand you, and I will keep you and your family safe.
Anakin's weapon drops slightly. Obi-Wan hopes, thinking that he's broken through. And then, lightning streaks across the room as Anakin is thrown back.
Weak.
The air crackles with raw power as Darth Sidious strides into the chamber. His sunken eyes gleam with malice. Behind him, a fresh squad of clones march in. These bear the red markings of the Coruscant Guard, in contrast to the 501st. Before anyone can react, Mace lunges forward. His lightsaber flashes as he rains down attacks on him. Palpatine halts this attack and laughs, spinning back and hurling his cloak around and then stabbing through it while Mace can't see. And yet, the Jedi can dodge and rush forward, ramming his shoulder against him. Palpatine slams against the wall. Beside him, some crates of spice, which he throws in the air, unleashing it all. The air becomes thick and hazy as Mace is left coughing, trying to avoid inhaling it lest he lose his senses. But through the haze, Obi-Wan and Maul rush forward, their lightsabers flashing a deadly dance. Sidious meets him with a crackle, parrying Maul's assault effortlessly and then sidestepping the follow-up kick. He stabs his lightsaber forward while Obi-Wan slashes downward, trying to prevent him from escaping. But then Palpatine leaps back from the attack and shoves them back with the Force. As Mace comes forward, he presses his lightsaber down on Palpatine, trying to finish him off.
I defeated you once. I can do it again.
You underestimate my power.
He suddenly knees him and shoves Mace aside as Maul snarls and sweeps his lightsaber at him. Though Palpatine dodges, the Sith Lord jabs his lightsaber in a slash. This time he manages to graze his side. Palpatine howls in pain, but doesn't let that stop him. If anything, he lets the rage fuel him and keeps coming. He ducks under the next strike, and then drives his lightsaber forward into Maul's chest. Maul gasps as the crimson blade pierces his chest. His hands tremble, reaching out for something. Anything. For revenge. For survival. Then, with a vicious twist, he hurls Maul's lifeless body aside. Mace and Obi-Wan watch in horror. The two come rushing at him yet again, working in tandem to rain their strikes on him. But Palpatine is riding high from his victory, and now moves with unnatural speed. This breaks their momentum and leaves them struggling to hold him back. The two try to strike at the same time, but Palpatine leaps back and unleashes a wave of Force lightning once again. However, before either one can react, a blur rushes in front of them and halts his attack in its place. He has his lightsaber raised above them.
You dare defy me?
You don't know how tired I am of taking orders from you. Snarling, Palpatine lunges at him again, but Anakin leaps over and then kicks him in the back just as Mace and Obi-Wan charge forward. He barely manages to halt himself and swings his lightsaber, pushing them back to try and get past them. When he turns around, he faces off against 3 lightsabers rushing at him. The 3 Jedi press him hard, their auras glowing brightly, even Anakin, which shifts slowly back towards the light. Sidious is overwhelmed. The 3 Jedi press him on all sides. Even with his dark power ebbing out from him, he is forced onto the defensive. Seeing his chance, Mace delivers a crushing strike, his saber cleaving through Sidious's wrist, severing his hand. He screams and tries to slither aside, but Obi-Wan is faster and pins him against the wall as Anakin drives his lightsaber into his chest. Sidious's eyes burn with hatred, but it soon dies out. With this data, there is now enough evidence to reopen the case against Palpatine. Even more surprising is Anakin's decision to talk about his own experiences. Even though he agreed he cannot be impartial, he is still allowed to share his opinion, and his reputation still gives him credence. Though Masamada tries to stop this, as evidence comes out of his involvement, he cannot challenge this without looking like he's silencing an investigation on himself. And soon this evidence becomes overwhelming, and he is removed from office. The new chancellor begins reversing some of the policies against the Jedi, but many opt to remain in the Outer Rim, especially Mace, who sees they are no longer welcome on Coruscant. They are joined by Anakin, who is eager to restore his name in the Order, even with Padme's safe childbirth of 2 healthy children, Luke and Leia. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.